Alright, so before we start the fill, we're going to check how much helium we have in here. This is a brand new doer, so it should be full with 30 liters, but just to make sure that it is and we don't make any mistakes later, we're going to check it beforehand. Anytime you measure the volume of helium, you do sacrifice a little bit of helium through evaporation, but it's worth it. So, because if this is accidentally empty or something and we try to fill the magnet, you could end up quenching it, or something bad like that could happen. So make sure there's enough clearance above you. Take this hollow rod, put your finger over the top. Some people use a glove, a nitrile glove. Make sure you protect your other hand with a thermally resistant glove because it will be cold. Preferentially a cryogenic resistant glove because those ones are resistant to wetting as well as the cold temperature. So what I'll do, maybe I'll take that one off, is stick this all the way at the bottom of the doer here, and then we'll clip an alligator clip. It's what we had lying around at the base of the rod. I'll start to lift it up slowly. I'll feel the top with my finger, and there's a little oscillation of released gas, of helium gas, evacuating the doer through this tube. I can feel that if I cover up this hole at the top. It'll start slowly, and then as I lift the rod, eventually I'll get to the surface of the helium, and the frequency of the vibration under my finger will increase, and that's how I know where the surface of the liquid is. And we'll clip the second alligator clip at that point, and then we can measure the distance in between them to figure out the height of the liquid. And we have some rulers over there, and then based on the height we can convert that to liters of helium. Great. Yeah. So lift that valve and go all the way down. Can you lift that alligator clip once more?
Sure.
Alright. I can now feel the vibration.
Okay, we're gonna do that.
Alright, this is at the bottom. Yeah.
That was the bottom.
Alright, get the black one off. Take the black clip off.
Of course.
Alright, I'm gonna slowly start to lift this. So I can't feel any vibrations when it's on the very bottom, but as soon as I lift it off a little bit, now I can feel the vibrations under my finger. And I'll lift it slowly. There.
Alright, bottom to bottom.
Alright, yeah, it was really obvious. Alright, so we'll need to push the helium out of that doer into the magnet, and in order to push it we use pressurized helium gas. I believe that's balloon grade helium gas. The reason I'm wearing some gloves is because this tubing just drags around the floor of the lab and gets dirty, and I don't know what's on that. Yeah, just have a cylinder nearby. Make sure the pressure regulator you use is the appropriate one for helium gas. It is right hand threaded. Alright. You still filming?
Mm-hmm. I stopped a couple times, but we're going again.
Alright, the other part of this will be placed on our doer. This has a flow rate gauge, a flow meter, I guess you could say. Before we attach this, though, we want to bleed the line, or prime the line with helium gas. We don't want to push. There's probably some air in that line that built up over time. So I'm going to turn this down all the way, and then step to the side before opening it. Alright, we have about 500 psi in here. And now I'll increase this a little bit, just to get some flow through the line. I can hear the helium pushing through the other end. And if you, okay, it's primed with helium. Tested that with my voice. Oh, no, you don't need to. It's just kind of dusty and dirty, like you see. It's mainly for this tubing that drags all over the lab floor. Until we're in the middle of the fill.
Okay.
Because what will happen is when we stick the rod in here, it'll heat up the helium enough and build a little bit of initial pressure to start the fill.
Right.
And then once we'll be monitoring the helium level in the magnet. Once that slows down a little bit, we can turn on the actual helium flow and push helium through here. This part right here is actually very critical to the success of the fill. If it's not tightened properly, if there's helium leaking out through this joint here, what will happen is you'll just end up discharging a lot of helium into the atmosphere, and you'll waste a lot of the liquid. It'll just evaporate through the hole as well. So there's two O-rings in here. There's this one that's visible, and then there's one underneath here. You won't be able to see it, but this is a very tight slide fit, so the O-ring underneath there is actually sealed properly. And then this one will be screwed on the top here. Okay, so what we're going to do, so we don't want to leave the helium ports open very long without actually filling. So we need an exhaust port, so that'll be this in the back. That'll be where the helium gas discharges as the liquid fills up over the coil. The fill port is right here. So I'm going to loosen that. I already loosened the clamp around the exhaust. And remember, if you're watching this, you've probably already done a nitrogen fill. So you definitely want to do a nitrogen fill before you do a helium fill. Make sure your nitrogen is topped off beforehand. If you don't do that, what can happen is as you fill the helium, it can cool down the surrounding nitrogen chamber, and water can get pulled into the nitrogen chamber from the atmosphere. And you can get ice, solid ice in your nitrogen. So I'm going to switch to thermally resistant gloves now. Are you guys just get this in position? Because this rod will cool down a lot and it will freeze the O-ring. We want to make sure by the time that happens, it's already in place. That's nearly tight. All right. So now and you don't even need to take that off until you can just pop it off right now, right? It's, okay, well, I'm going to take this exhaust off. Don't worry about it.
I can do it whenever.
All these parts are magnetic, so don't let them fall into your magnet. All right, don't stick it in yet. So I'm going to stick this down first. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom and then pull it up just slightly. you see the helium come out of it, of liquid, pull it back into the camera view. That's it. So go ahead and stick it in. And make sure this is slightly off the bottom. You can kind of clamp it in place with the valve. And I can also pressure it. Oh yeah, make sure you avoid that exhaust here. This is good. I'll just close that for now. And you can bring it over here and watch the exhaust. I just took a helium reading. All right, it jumped from 39 to 80. That's probably inaccurate. The scale runs from about 30. Well, the minimum we go to is about 30. We wouldn't want to go below that, to 100. So I'm gonna closely monitor that throughout the fill, and also watch the exhaust. Eventually that'll get, okay, that didn't change. So another thing, it looks like it's exhausting pretty well, but as it slows down, we'll want to actually turn up the helium fill rate. So this valve will need to be opened right here, which is our helium inlet from the gas cylinder. So it's winding down a bit. So yeah, I'm gonna start flowing in helium gas. So I'll open that. And can you watch the gauge over there, the flow meter?
Which gauge?
The flow meter. It's on that side. Not the pressure gauge, sorry, the flow meter.
Oh, yeah. What do you want it at? It's at 6 right now.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we can also, yeah, you can adjust it here. 6 to 8's fine. I'm gonna check the level again. Our other magnet has an automatic reader. I'm gonna turn down the flow rate. And flow. So go ahead. Lift that one up. Yeah, just go ahead. Yeah, pull it out. I can take it and you can cover that. Pour it up there. It's a good thing to note where that. Oh, it's right there. It's right by your phone.
The bright sides. Gotta flow them out. Should I record you doing that?
Sure, but I also. So this O-ring goes in here. And this one just goes around it. Usually I need to loosen this before tightening. So now we're going to find out how much helium we used. Go ahead and open. Oh, you can actually hear that. Yeah, okay, there it is. We used pretty much the whole door. There's like a centimeter left. 32 centimeters. Oh, you don't really need to record this. Anyone who works in this lab is probably familiar with how gas cylinders work. Although make sure you close that before you remove your regulator. Since this cylinder won't be in use for another 3 months, we'll store it with the cap on. The policy in this lab is compliance first.